Okay, these problems right here, um, we just kind of need to look and move the variables where they want to be. If you use that analogy of these little negative exponents are mean that these variables are unhappy with where they are in relation to the fraction bar. And they just want to be moved, and if we move them, they'll be all happy and positive. That's kind of an analogy I use in this section. So let's draw our fraction bar. We have a 3 on top. Now this x to the minus 2 on top, he is not happy being on top. He wants to be on the bottom of the fraction bar, and so if we move him, that negative 2 becomes a positive 2. The negative on the exponent just tells us it really goes on the other side if we want a positive exponent. And likewise, look at the bottom. We have y to the minus 1. Well, he is not happy on the bottom. He wants to go on the top, and if we let him go on the top, the exponent becomes positive because now he's happy with where you moved him. So once you do this, you just get 3y over x squared, and that's your answer. And that's all you have to do. We don't like to write terms with negative exponents or with exponents of 0. It's considered improper. And let me tell you, you may think, when am I ever going to use this? If you take calculus, we do this all the time. So it's one of those, this is one of those things that shows up a little later, and you think you're never going to see it again, and then all it pops up and it gives people lots of troubles. Okay, so we got s to the minus 2, t to the minus 3, over s to the minus 1, t to the 0. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is just mark out t to the 0, because anything to the 0 power is just 1. So that's just times 1. So we can forget about it, honestly. Now, look at all these other, look at all the exponents in this problem. They're all negative. That means nobody's happy with where the teacher sat them in relation to the fraction bar. The s to the minus 2 on top. He wants to go on the bottom, so we move him to the bottom, and it becomes a positive 2. The t to the minus 3 on top. He is unhappy sitting on top of the fraction bar. If we let him go to the bottom, the exponent will be all positive, and he'll be happy, and we no longer have a negative exponent. But now look at the bottom. You have s to the minus 1. Well, that s wants to go to the top, and when it goes to the top, it becomes a s to the 1. I know that looks like a 5, but that's a s. Okay, now, let's think about it. Now we have to use our laws of exponents, because I have an s squared on the bottom and an s to the first power on the top. And since they're both s's, there's more on the bottom. So whatever I get as my answer is going to go on the bottom. I'm going to subtract those exponents. 2 minus 1 is 1, and it's on the bottom. And then I've got t cubed on the bottom. Well, I fill in with a 1 here. Here's why. Couldn't I have written this out the long way? Couldn't I have said, let's start from this step right here. I could have put an s on the top, and 2 s's on the bottom, and then t on the bottom. Well, the s goes into s one time, s goes into s one time. That would have left me with 1 over s and then t cubed. Do you see why the 1's really there? If we were actually canceling out factors and dividing them out, there would have been a 1 left there, because we would have said s goes to s one time, s goes into that s one time. So anyway, my answer should be 1 over st cubed when I'm all said and done here. That's a positive 3. This section, like I said, people get really confused looking at this stuff because it looks a little weird, but it's not too hard to deal with. You have u to the minus 2 on top and v on the bottom, and then it's to the minus 1 power. Now, one thing I can do, let me work from the inside out, I guess. There's a couple of ways to do this, and it's always, different people have different styles and orders of doing things. Let me draw that fraction bar. V's happy where he is. He's staying, okay? But u to the minus 2 is not happy, and he wants to move to the bottom, and its negative 2 becomes happy and a positive 2 now. Since I moved it, there's a 1 there on the top, okay? And we talked about that in problem 23. Now this is to the minus 1 power. All that minus 1 is telling me to do, if it had just been to the first power, it would have been the same expression that's inside the parentheses, right? Well, since it's a minus 1, it's telling me that I can flip that fraction, so it's vu squared over 1 to the positive 1 power. When you see a fraction raised to a negative exponent, you just flip the fraction and make the exponent positive. It's the fast way to do it. Well, let's see. vu squared over 1 is just vu squared. Let me write it with the u first, since it comes first alphabetically. So it's u squared v to the first power, which is just u squared v. and we're done. 27 is the last one that was assigned. On 27, you have 2x to the negative 2, y squared, all of that raised to the negative 2 power. Okay, let's simplify the inside first, and then we'll work on that exponent that's on the outside. All right, so if I just simplify the inside first, I've got 2 on top of the x fraction bar. And x to the minus 2, he's saying he wants to go down here and become positive. Now y squared's positive, so he wants to stay on top. He's all happy, okay? Now this is to the minus 2 power. All right, I have simplified inside the parentheses as far as I can, and now I'm ready to go and think about what's going on with this exponent on the outside. First of all, the negative on the negative 2 tells me to flip my fraction, so I'm going to flip what's on the inside, and then that's going to make the negative 2 turn into a positive 2 once I flip the fraction. Okay, so now I got rid of the negative. Now I just got to square everything. That means I've got to square the numerator and I've got to square the denominator. So x squared squared, remember a power to a power, you multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. Now 2 squared on the bottom becomes 4. And then y squared squared, squared squared would become 2 times 2 is 4. So it would be y to the 4th. And that would be your answer there.